So there's 2 comings, please.
Do mise en place, that's fine. Brioche there. Good. Nice size of French on it. We got another one. Ensemble. Oui. Double
Michelin's star perfection is only possible if all the members of the team play their part in exactly the right way. This discipline was something Gordon learned in his first career, playing for First Division team Glasgow Rangers.
I always flick back to my days from 17 to a 19-year-old as a professional footballer, waiting for my big break in first team football, because we only see 11 players and no one really understands fully. There's another 30 or 40 behind that 11. But the level of discipline to get there and to maintain that spot is phenomenal. And it's a very similar situation in the kitchen. We work on a very team-structured basis. I get one member of staff on the garnish that is not ready, then the whole lot's destroyed. It's very much structured around a very team-orientated effort, really. But that's twice a day, not just once a week. I concentrate on the simplicity of the food, and then once I've executed that, then I'll develop it to great heights. Poaching a slice of turbot in an infused red wine is not difficult. Cooking scallops, in order to cook a scallop properly and caramelise the actual flesh, it's got to be in a non-stick pan, piping hot, and it's got to be done quickly. It's the elementary cooking techniques that I think that really need to be brushed up on and have a proper insight to what's going on. I mean, the broccoli soup, it's so simple. You remove your broccoli spears, you discard the stalks, you have a boiling pan of water, rapidly boiling. You overcook the broccoli heads, you drain off the water and you save the water. Now I bet you 9 times out of 10 that anyone else would throw the water away. We then drain the broccoli, place it in a food processor and start adding your hot water, your boiling water, back to the puree. That's not difficult. But no one's ever thought about keeping the broccoli water. First thing to do is throw it away. We may do a ravioli of ghost cheese and take it a step further. There's nothing wrong with at home on a domesticated front to put it in a shape with a spoon, or pipe it in the bottom of a bowl, or float it on top. And that's exactly what we'd serve at lunch, with the addition of sautéed mushrooms. Making a classic pumpkin soup. You peel the pumpkin, remove the seeds, slice it into cubes, sweat it off in olive oil from 10 to 15 minutes, lightly caramelise the pumpkin, add some shavings of Parmesan cheese, make a wonderful natural vegetable stock, bring it up to the boil, cook it out for half an hour, again puree it, and there's your soup. If you like it thick consistency, leave it thick. If you'd like it creamed, then cream it. If you want to take it a step further and roast some wonderful scallops, or to put some lobster with it, or just serve plain pumpkin soup. That's what we're serving at the moment, especially this time of year. And I don't really think that's that difficult. I suppose it's just installing the confidence to do it. There's a very natural, clean sort of cooking techniques. I have 2 or 3 favourite dishes. The cappuccino of white beans, and everybody, when they first started driving, a cappuccino, well, that's something we have for coffee. Now, I mean, quite frankly, it's everywhere. There's cappuccinos throughout the country. There's cappuccinos in France.
And the secret of the cappuccino is a very light, long-lasting stock. It has a touch of cream, and the essence behind all the froth is a very small knob of ice-cold butter at the end, which, in like so, and then just lightly sat on top of the stock. As you can see, it's doubling volume, so it's maximising all the flavour. It's capturing all that exciting taste, and it's coming nice and light and very easy to digest.
I like the style of the sauce, I love the excitement of the froth, the easiness of eating it and swallowing the soup. And then it's performed with prawns and lentils now, and we have it with fèves, we have it with peas. So I suppose that style has become, I suppose, my hallmark. It's very difficult to be inside a kitchen all day like that and measure the success of that particular dish until you start hearing it from inspectors and reading it through guides. And Matthew Fort was mentioning it in this little restaurant tucked away in the south of Ireland, the fact that, you know, this is the last place on earth you'd ever expect to find a cappuccino of white beans. And this particular chef had obviously been on 3 or 4 occasions. He'd got it quite right, according to Matthew, and insisted on putting my name by the side of it. So I find that quite strange.
Stocks and sauces are among the essential building blocks of Gordon's cuisine. Whether it's a vanilla-scented sauce for fish or a light jus for lamb, every dish takes enormous skill and care.
Over here are the sauces, starting off here with the very light chicken stock, which has been brought up to the boil for service, correctly seasoned. Going next to it is the nage, which is a vegetable stock, which has been infused with lemon, herbs, and then next to that we have a lemongrass nage. Thank you, John. Good morning. How are you, John? Excellent. So this is the lemongrass nage, which has lots of lemongrass, beautiful aroma of herbs. Next to that, this is a very light langoustine stock, which we made out of langoustine shells and lobster shells, beautifully roasted in the oven. Lots of fresh tomatoes, and brought to the boil and then reduced down to get this lovely lobster vinaigrette. Next to that, we have the port wine sauce, which is a port wine reduction made out of shallots, mushrooms, Madeira, and a beautifully coloured brown chicken stock. And we'll go on about that later, making a brown chicken stock whereby we're actually, you can taste it now, it's not too sweet, it's been beautifully caramelised. The sauces are not quite seasoned. We'll season the sauces as we come to put them on the plate, so we put our final finishing touches as the plate goes. So we're that close and everything gets finished right at the last minute. Next to that is the red wine sauce, which is made out of red wine fish stock. Fish stock as normal, but instead of placing water, we put half percentage of water to half red wine. Sometimes we caramelise the vegetables with smoked bacon at the same time. Sometimes you can even marinate the bones in red wine to stain it and to maximise the flavour, especially if it's a turbot. Next to that is a sauce that we make the most, and that is a lamb stock. This is a very light, beautifully rusted lamb stock, and that's made with fresh tomatoes, a beautiful caramelised mirepoix of vegetables, brought together with tomatoes, lamb bones which have been nicely roasted. Sometimes if you happen to over roast the lamb bones, then it creates this bitter taste at the end of the lamb jus. And this one here is nice and mellow. You can identify the lamb, and by the time we finish and correct the seasoning, that sauce will be perfect. It's got a lovely light body to it as well. Next to that, we have our red wine sauce, which has been made with a concentrate of red wine, caramelised shallots again, lots of thyme, lots of bay leaf, and a huge quantity of red wine which has been reduced. The reduction is a syrup, and it's just red wine concentrate reduced down to wonderful syrup. Today's lunch is braised shin of beef, which is a shin of beef which has been wrapped up, tied very tightly, braised in the oven for 3.5 to 4 hours on a huge bed of beautiful rustic winter vegetables, left to cool down in its stock, all the tendons and the very fibres of the shin removed, and then it's rolled. Once it's rolled, it's set in the fridge to firm up. Then we slice it into little medallions and then poach that back in its water, and that's served with a lovely rich red wine sauce which has been used with brown chicken stock. From that we go back to the cream sauce, which is a very light cream velouté made out of fish stock, nolly-pas, you know, the vermouth wine, and then finished with cream. Brought up to the boil, seasoned and left to cool down, and we use that to garnish the turbot around the outside. Sometimes we use that as the base of our soups because it's a very light cream, 1/3 cream, 1/3 vermouth and 1/3 fish stock. Sometimes when we've got extra scallops, we put the skirts from the scallops inside the velouté to finish it off to give it that lovely rustic shellfish flavour. It's also been quite common to sometimes puree a fresh scallop through the cream just to give it that extra burst of that sea taste, that wonderful wild flavour and this lovely natural smell that scallops have. Roast rump of lamb with crushed new potatoes. Great lunch dish, very, very simple, unfussy, uncomplicated. Rumps of lamb have been marinated in a touch of olive oil, some nice fresh rosemary. Again, we're going to roast on top of the stove because we've got this wonderful line of fat which has been scored, and you can see it's gone right through to the meat, so we can impart lots of flavour with this thyme, this rosemary. Going to chemise the pan with garlic, generous on the seasoning, and then fat side down because we're going to cook the rump on its fat to prevent it from becoming dry inside, in order to make sure it's pink. It's a lot easier to control the cooking temperature on the fat than it is when the flesh has been exposed to the pan. This lamb here is English lamb, and it's almost to the end of now the new season lamb. It's a rump, so it's taken from the bottom, removed off the bone, and costs just over £1 a portion, which is nothing. It's important to marinate these rumps for a minimum of 48 hours prior to roasting. Nice hot pan, sealing all around. We're just going to continue frying that garlic with the lamb. It's raw, it's not even crushed, it's going to cook, it's going to flavour the oil, and it's going to combine those flavours with the lamb that has been marinated with the rosemary, the thyme and olive oil. So sealed on the bottom, and then I'm going to turn it back on side its fat on top, and then just leave that to roast, and then every 3 or 4 minutes just lightly baste with your olive oil. So we're just going to get that nice and coloured. The important part of roasting the rump of lamb, of course, is to make sure we continue that fierce heat. If we take it too cool and we move it off the stove and we allow it to cool down, then it becomes soggy and it becomes bland, and there's no caramelisation on top of this fat, because we want to really cook that crispy. And that's why we're going to seal it around, turn it back on its bum, and have it cooking on its fat. Leave the garlic in. Just whilst that's starting to colour, some nice fresh thyme flowers here. We're just going to pick off, slide your fingers all the way down, and then very carefully infuse that olive oil and just give it more flavour. Fry the thyme with the garlic inside the pan and just impart more flavour. It's very important that it cooks nice and slow now, because it's a rump, it's not a fillet of lamb, so therefore it's more fibrous. It's more fatty, and therefore it can be a bit tougher. So the most important part is to continue this hot heat, leave it cooking on the side, but with a very fierce temperature underneath, because it's important to render more quicker than it is with a fillet of lamb that takes a bit more gentle cooking. This needs a lot stronger heat. Okay, for the garnish, this has got to be my all-time favourite potato. It's crushed new potatoes, and it's a very Provençal way of cooking potatoes, because it's mixed with tomatoes, olives, basil and thyme flowers. Crushed new potatoes. New potatoes that have been blanched, skins removed, and just sliced roughly like so. They are very waxy, they're Jersey Royals, and it's a very nice textured potato. It's rich in flavour. They're almost 3/4 cooked because this dish literally means crushing your potatoes. And the secret of peeling them, of course, is to peel them whilst they're still nice and warm. So potatoes into a pan, crush with a fork, not with a spoon. Just going to mix them up like so. Olive oil. Just moisten the potatoes with the olive oil. We've got some nice fresh basil, chopped. We've got some wonderful fresh tomatoes that have just been peeled and cut up roughly, because there's nothing fancy about this dish. This is a great dish for lunch. It's a very straightforward dish and it's unfussy. I think that's the important part. Some beautiful thyme flowers infused into the potatoes, like so. Generous on the thyme, of course, because we really want it to impart that flavour. Just going to turn that over again, like so. Okay, the potatoes can be cooked in the morning. It's something that is very simple to put together. Once your lamb is en route to be roasted, potatoes sliced into a pan, combined with the tomato, the basil, beautifully seasoned, and then finally, why we call it crushing your potato, of course, is that we're just going to lightly crush with a fork and combine the basil, the tomatoes, and the olive oil. I've got some wonderful fresh black olives to go in there, but they obviously don't go into the very end, otherwise we're going to have a very awful colour potato. So we're lightly crushing that like so, turning it around with your fork and literally just crushing it on the back of your fork, pureeing that tomato, combining the basil, and then letting that olive oil be absorbed in the potatoes, and then just bring it together like so. And at this stage now, I'm going to just very, very carefully add my olives. Fresh packed olives, which have been stoned and sliced into two. Generous on the olives. And then just to moisturize, or just to moisten the potatoes, I've got a very simple olive oil vinaigrette with lemon juice, olive oil, wine vinegar, and we're just going to pour that in. And then again, very carefully, just fold in those delicious potatoes. It smells absolutely wonderful. We don't want to beat it too hard because of the olives are now inside the potatoes. Create the seasoning, a bit more salt, gentle on the salt, of course, because of the olives. Some fresh black pepper, and then finally just finish it with another touch of basil, and then turn very carefully. It's nice and sticky, it's brought together wonderfully, and it's not too wet. That's the most important part. We've still got the texture of the potatoes. It tastes lumpy, as it should do. You can identify the tomatoes. It's been infused with the basil. And the seasoning, well, the seasoning for me is spot on, delicious. Leave that just to cool down for 2 minutes. The lamb, as you can see now, has got this wonderful, firm, crisp fat on top. It's been rendered, it's nice and smooth, and we're just going to baste and glaze that lamb, and just finally remove it from the pan, leave it to cool down about 3 minutes, and use that garlic. That's been lovely throughout. The thyme flowers are in the olive oil, the garlic's been roasted, so don't waste it, use it. Leave it to cool down, and now ready for serving. Crush your potatoes into a cutter just to make it look a bit more attractive on the plate, because it's very rustic, earthy dish that is very simple to put together. Generous on the potatoes, into the centre of the plate, and just lightly press down, like so. And you can now see why it's called crushed new potatoes, because we're just going to slice, remove that cutter. There you can see the textured potatoes, all these beautiful colours, the herbs in there. And now finally, we're going to slice the lamb. And the exciting thing about this dish, of course, we don't need a sauce. We don't need any lamb jus, we don't need any long-winded sauces. This is simplicity at its best. It's crushed new potatoes, sliced, beautiful rump of lamb. As you can see, this nice, crispy fat on top, and we're just going to nicely slice this down. Not too thick. You can see it's beautifully pink in the center. Place the lamb, which is nice and pink, on top of the potatoes, and just nicely season as you build this particular dish on top. As you can see, it's nice and pink. Just remove that little piece there. There's my garlic, which I'm just going to run inside the little juices to glaze. That's my roast garlic. And then finally, season. And then, with your vinaigrette, just nicely glaze the lamb, your plate, the potatoes, and there we have a beautiful roast rump of lamb served on a bed of delicious crushed new potatoes.
The excitement, the buzz, it's phenomenal. It's a rush. Sometimes you come away feeling cloud nine, but then you're always somewhat a little worried how tomorrow's going to come. So it's very short-lived.
On there, go. All three together, Mark.
God, when you're in the thick of it, the amount of work that goes into 45 people for dinner, it's phenomenal, frightening. Especially when you see the amount of produce that arrives in the morning. To think that's all broken down, we have one freezer in the house, and everything utilised. Then 11 o'clock, bang, everything empty. Strange feeling.
In the next programme, Gordon pays an early morning visit to Billingsgate Fish Market.
This fish there, that's a girlfriend fish, because it looks just like your girlfriend, Gordon.
My ex-girlfriend.